Conversations of Race in America on WSGW. Now, here is your host, Kareem Bowen.
Good afternoon. This is Kareem, and welcome to another edition of United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America. Today is another beautiful day out there in the neighborhood. Sun is shining. It is warm outside. I'm in my zen. Also in the stream, for those of you who are watching via our social media, and also now for those of you who are listening to this on the radio, we have in the studio across from me in a beautiful blue. I like that color blue. Jonathan, John B in the place to be. What's good, John?
Hello.
I like that. Good with the eyes too, Jonathan. You're working it out.
What?
The shirt and the eyes.
Oh yeah,
making you pop over there. But also we have those of you who are watching via social media stream. My co-host Mark Bassett, sitting by the pool, making great things happen with the wonderful glass windows behind him. What's going on, Mark?
Not too much. I'm just at home, getting ready to leave town next week, like I said. So
Mark is getting ready to do some traveling, visit some family. But it's the big weekend coming up that we have always loved.
We count down to
this. It is the annual Christmas Aglow. And Mark, what are the treasures you're looking for this year?
I'm not looking for anything in particular. I just, if I see something I like, I'll buy it. I don't think I've shared this with you. Every year they have a museum, and the museum is, different people bring parts of their collections and then show them, and people walk through and look through the museum every night. I'm actually displaying in the museum this year. I'm displaying part of my collection in the museum.
So how does that happen, Mark? How does one get from Midland to showing in a Christmas museum halfway across the country?
Well, I've picked up part of my collection that is easy to transport. It's a lot of advertising pieces, so like cardboard signs, advertising soda, beer, cigarettes, but for the Christmas season, candy, etc. I'm going to pack up, we have a third car, a minivan that my wife forced us to keep, which I'm glad she did for occasions like this. And I'm going to pack up the minivan and drive to Norfolk, Virginia, the Tidewater area to display the advertising collection I have at the Christmas Museum.
How much of that is Coca-Cola advertising for the holidays?
Right. Yeah. You had a lot.
Not a lot. I don't really love the Coca-Cola Santa. I have a few pieces. I have a lot of 7-Up pieces. Sprite, not Sprite, but Squirt is another one that had pretty cool advertising. And then I've got some pretty cool cigarette advertising, actually, carton covers and signs of cigarettes, as well as beer. I've got some pretty cool beer advertising.
Okay. So we got Christmas Aglow. We're going to talk about those great finds that Mark has. Mark actually... when we were nominated, we were talking about, was it Black Santa?
Black Santa was the segment that won, what was it? Best personality?
Yeah.
For the MAB?
Yeah. Black Santa. So you got to bring some more stuff up there for us to talk about.
I'm going to bring a small Black Santa to display along with the advertising. So
I think that's awesome. So I'm excited about that, but there's so much going on. I want to get into our show today.
Wait a minute. Before we get into the show,
we need to touch up on
follow up. I think Jonathan has approval.
No. That's right.
Yes.
So Jonathan, so for those of you who do not know, on last week, Mark, who is the dresser, he dresses like a well-dressed black preacher. No, I'm just joking. But he dresses.
We're not going to do that to you, Jonathan. Don't worry.
Pinstripes and polka dots. Mark said, "Hey, why don't we dress you for your wedding?" So Mark was talking about getting the suit. I'm doing the accessories. And so Mark had to check in with the fiance, and Jonathan did. Yeah. So Jonathan, we need the drum roll, please.
She said yes.
She said yes again.
She said yes, and thank you for being so generous.
Yes, and thank you. I think you're just on a streak with this one. She keeps telling you yes.
What does she think about your sense of style, Jonathan? What does she like how you dress, or does she make some comments of like, hey, could use an upgrade?
She hasn't said anything.
Never.
Is this her way of saying yes? We need to upgrade a little bit.
I don't know. She likes when I wear a suit.
Okay.
She hasn't made fun of me wearing a suit yet.
Okay.
So
all
right. What are you, about 6'2", Jonathan?
6'5"?
No.
Yeah, you're 6'5".
I'm 6'2".
Holy moly! Holy, wow.
Good luck finding a suit. That's the problem.
No,
Yeah,
but,
that's
I
going to
mean,
be an issue because usually the suits, to fit a guy your height is going to be a bigger chest.
Yep. Yeah, so
So
you got to
that's
bring
we're
it
gonna
in
need
and the
to get a
waist
slim suit.
and in
Yeah,
the chest. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, you're like runway material, Jonathan. 6'5", thin. If you're
We
only
may have
good
to, we're
looking, you'd
probably
be
going to have to
okay.
put it on
Oh,
shirt. So we need the wedding is in October. Is that correct?
Early October. Yep.
All right. So we need to find
yeah. Well,
Find a time.
Mark is saying that we need
He's
to find
frozen.
a time. He said we need to find a time to get together.
a time when I get back at the end of July.
You came in right on cue, Mark.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get in to our conversation today. I want to give a shout out first of all, but when we get started, this past weekend was the 4th of July weekend. There was a lot that was going on, and teenagers, young kids were full in effect. And I asked everybody, they were like, "No, it was quiet and calm where we were." Well, I got called to a scene with dozens of teenage kids fighting. And so we were sitting there, and I want to just give a shout out because law enforcement was outnumbered by a bazillion to one. But I do want to give them a shout out because I think that they did an amazing job of really trying to corral and to make sure that everyone was good. I thank them for allowing the men from our organization, Help CVI, to kind of step in and to support and to kind of get in and talk with kids. And they were bringing them out of the cars and getting them back to their parents. It was a tall order, but I just want to say thank you and congratulations on a job well done for that type of event. And I know that it can be very dynamic. Many of us, we get really sensitive when it comes to kids and law enforcement, but I think that they did a really good job. And that's from the Saginaw Police Department to our county sheriff's department and the state police that were there. We don't get too many times that we're saying thank you for the work that they do. So many times we hear the negativity that comes along with it. But I do want to take this moment just to say thank you. I appreciate the work and the support that you all provided on the 4th of July. And so I think that when celebration or honor is due, I think we got to make sure that we do that. So I just wanted to take a chance, take this time just to say that. So thank you. And I think that what was displayed this past weekend was a great example of how community residents and community organizations can have a very great relationship. I say a partnership with law enforcement. It does not have to be antagonistic, but today or this weekend was a great show of how that relationship really can function and work well. So great job, everybody. But I do want to get into our conversation. A lot has happened on the 4th of July. Did you guys watch the 4th of July festivities in DC or anything that was going on?
No.
Had you guys happened to see any of the pictures of the organization that was walking through the streets of DC during the 4th of July?
No, I heard like
you're
the
talking
Fair
about
thing was
the white supremacists.
Yeah,
group with masks on. Yeah,
you've heard about it at least.
yeah.
No, Jonathan, well, you're not in news. You're completely away from news, aren't you?
I took a long weekend and turned off everything.
Sometimes you got to do that. Well, I didn't see it initially, but people you got to turn on the TV and see this. And I was watching different clips of this. So, yeah, Mark, there was a white supremacist group. I'm not even sure which group it is. That's how much attention I gave it. But there was one picture that was super duper striking. Those of you who are familiar with where the White House is in DC, and that area for a long, is very DC is called Chocolate City. And it's called Chocolate City because there's so many black people in DC. And so to see a white supremacist group, it's not rare. People march on the Capitol all the time. That's not rare. But it was just the nature in which it happened. And I think the climate that we have seeing happen and engaging in for some time now made it really interesting and something that people would report on. The other thing that was interesting, I saw a picture of an African-American woman sitting on what would be, it wasn't a bus, I guess a sub.
It was the metro. It was the subway.
A metro. Did you see the picture, Mark?
I did, yeah.
Did you not think that was a very interesting and striking picture?
Well, it was. I mean, I'm guessing, she was
Describe it.
sitting there and they all got
Yeah, we're
on.
going to describe it after we talk about it.
Oh,
No, go ahead, Mark. He's
I
describing
was
it.
just going to say, it looked like she had been sitting on the metro, and then they got on the metro at some other later stop and were just riding the metro to wherever they were going. But yeah, I mean, it was a striking image of this young black woman literally surrounded by all of these white supremacists with masks on. So.
Yeah, and so the picture that you're talking about, and it was the way that she was looking like, I can't believe that you're getting on here, but I'm for this today. But it was just a striking moment for me as I thought about what was going on and I saw that image, to think that it was almost like a blast from the past that had resurfaced again in modern day time. Did you get a sense of that, Mark?
Yeah. I mean, the difference though is they weren't. It looked like they were leaving her alone. They weren't
Yeah.
harassing her.
Absolutely.
Which and 50, 70 years ago, they probably would be harassing her. But
I do have a question. When we think about this, why do you think that this organization? I think it's kind of obvious, but I'll ask the question anyways. Why the masks? Back in the day, it was the hoods. Today, we see these organizations wearing masks. Why?
I think
I've got a theory on
like,
this.
why does anyone wear a mask? I mean, I think people are afraid of everyone's going to identify who they are, and they're going to be subject to all sorts of things, from being fired to being harassed by people of different political views. So.
I have a feeling that that's the excuse that gets put up a lot of the time. That, well, I don't want to be identified and get canceled just for expressing my political belief. But I would hope that at least in some of them, deep down, there's some shame, and they want to, and that's why. It's not I'm afraid of consequences. There's some shame for.
I feel this way, and I'm embarrassed that I feel this way,
Yeah.
so I don't want people to.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Mark?
I have a hard time believing that, but maybe who knows? I'm not inside their head. I wouldn't do that sort of thing. I think they're more afraid of the consequence. My personal belief is they're afraid of the consequences that might fall on them by being identified. So,
and I would have to agree, Mark, because I think that shame would keep you at home, but I think conviction would bring you there, would bring you out. I mean, I would imagine that they're coming from all over the country or wherever they're coming from. They're not all coming from a single place. So there has to be I think a sense of conviction that this is what I truly believe, for them to make a trip and to invest in getting there. I think that shame. I think that whenever you go against something that would be considered normal or a standard or the status quo, there is an element of fear and shame that may be attached. But in this particular, I think that that their sense of conviction and standing up for what they believe is greater than that fear. I think that that's the thing that pushes them beyond just sitting at home feeling that way and not having the conversation with neighbors, but would mobilize them to actually stand up, come out, and to do what they're doing. Mark, I tend to believe that those masks are representative of the fact that I don't want to have to deal with the backlash. I don't want everyone to know. So I think that that's where that connection to shame may be for you, Jonathan. I don't want other people to know that I'm out here doing this.
Yeah. I don't want to own my words.
Yeah, and it's a cowardly strength, I guess, if you could.
Yeah.
But I think that it's something that, for me, it's kind of like, wow. It's one of those moments that I often think like who is really behind the mask? Like, just say it already. I'm a person who believes that whatever you believe, you should believe it boldly. I say that for people of the LGBTQR plus community, QI plus community, that whoever you are, whatever you believe, own what you are. Just do what you do, right? So I don't have any respect, but it's interesting. It was a symbolism of support and 250 years of the United States. Go ahead.
Maybe they were worried about COVID. That's why they could wear the mask. That's probably what it was.
From the people who have fought the mask mandate and fought the fact that COVID was real, now they realize that COVID is real. So they wear masks.
It was real.
But I want to get into today's conversation. Really, can a black man obtain justice in the justice system? And this is, I need y'all to understand that this is from a black man, by a black man, worded by a black man, presented to all of you that are out there with my two co-hosts who happen to be white men. And so I think that this conversation, and we've kind of talked about things of this nature, but this is a very real, I bring it up and bring it to the forefront because this is a real conversation that is happening in black communities all across the country. Mark, we talk about how this administration has really done a lot of things that initially were like, it's rich versus poor. We moved from there like, there are some things here that are clearly kind of pandering or moving toward that race basis of what's happening. But beyond that, we're no longer talking about this administration. I think that this administration has kind of offered up an opportunity for folks to feel emboldened in certain things that they do. How do you all feel about that statement, Mark?
Well, I think there's no debating that, I don't think. I mean, the rhetoric people use in just normal discourse, the name calling, the belittling, the demonizing people of different views, it's all, a lot of things are okay now that weren't okay 10, 15 years ago.
I want you to respond to, Jonathan, but I'm going to come back to you, Mark, about a question that is tied to this. But you said something, this is probably a year or two ago, and I want to bring it back up, but go ahead.
Emboldening, yes, but kind of leveling a playing field in a certain way. Whereas if people of a conservative bent were to voice some of those opinions, they'd be stoned in the public square, whereas people on the left could say those things. They could call names. They could poke and prod and cause problems like that because they had that pedestal to stand on. Whereas now it is, okay, conservatives are right there too, like it or not. And have many people been abusing that ability? Yeah. But I don't think we're in a position where one group has power over the other in the public square anymore.
Okay.
I guess I never felt like one
hello,
group.
Mark,
Yeah.
one sec. Because I want to make one correction to what Jonathan said. You can't use conservatives because I consider myself a conservative. And I know that Mark considers himself a conservative.
Okay, let me conservative pundits, talkers, voices that are out there, especially in the media square, if they were to say something that the left considered crossing a line, then they would get ridiculed. They'd get all the crap thrown their way that they could. That's no longer the case. They're able to say those things. Now,
when you say those things, what are we saying? What do you mean? Give me an example.
Criticizing policy in a way and criticizing people in a way that, honestly, if you go after somebody who is a public figure, you should be allowed to do that. Before you went after a public figure on the left, you got hammered. Whereas now,
what do you mean? Can I ask a clarifying question, Jonathan? Just because, what do you mean by going after? I mean, I have no issue criticizing or disagreeing with a policy position or an opinion, but when you start to ridicule people and name call people,
saying someone's unqualified to be in their position is a perfectly legitimate thing to say.
I think that's always happened, though.
It's happened, but not without repercussions.
Yeah, I guess I don't see that, I guess. But
wonk. Give us a better example, Jonathan. We're trying to give you this.
Charlie Kirk said Ketanji Brown Jackson didn't deserve her position.
Okay.
In more words than that, with more nuance than that. And that's the bit that was taken out, and he was dragged through the mud for it when there was a liberal bent to public discourse.
Okay.
That's gone. People can say that kind of thing now without getting dragged through the mud.
Well, they're still going to be dragged through the mud. It's just everybody's dragging everybody through the mud.
But the question was, are people emboldened to say these things now? The answer is yes. It just places them on a level playing field. Whereas you could go after Republican leaders all day and say that person's an idiot. Why are they in any position of power?
Okay, so you could. Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my thing is the example that you gave about the remarks by Charlie Kirk. It wasn't the fact that Charlie Kirk said them solely, but it's the fact that he said the remarks that she was unqualified about the most qualified individual on the Supreme Court, Justice Roberts included. And so when you look at where they were and you look at who she was and the statements that he had made in combination of other statements that have been framed by Charlie, it was problematic. And the outrage wasn't just because that Charlie said it about a black woman, but he said it about one of the most qualified, if not the most qualified individual.
Fine. Anybody goes after Nancy Pelosi in the past 8 years and they get crap slung at them.
I guess I look at it like this sounds a little bit like the argument, like, well, they were doing it, so it's okay, we can do it now. And I just don't believe anybody should be doing it. I just don't believe anybody should be doing it.
I think everybody should be doing it.
You think everybody should be doing what?
We should be questioning our lawmakers and public figures and putting them under a microscope 24/7.
I think the question becomes is how do you go about doing it, and what are you going after? I think with this, let's just be with Donald Trump and the kind of the movement he spawned, it's got nothing to do with about legitimate critiques. It's got everything to do with about making fun of how people talk, how they look, how they behave, and not about things of real substance frequently.
All right, we're going to take our first commercial break here. I think that this is interesting. I'm excited to see where this goes on the second half of our conversation. Has it happened? Jonathan says yes. I tend to believe yes. But we'll get into this a little bit more as we come back with more United Shades of Gray.
You're listening to United Shades of Gray on WSGW.
This is Kareem. We're back with more United Shades of Gray, conversations of race in America. And today, we have already begun a very spirited conversation, which I absolutely love. I think that this is good for everybody to hear these conversations as we show people that you can have a spirited conversation and think and view things differently, and yet come to the table and continue to be friends, continue to interact, and to live to have another conversation. So today, we are coming, and our conversation is lending toward can a black man obtain justice in the justice system? And I wanted to talk about this because there's been so many things as of late that have kind of come down to that black-white thing. And what we've seen as of late are situations where a black man is either in a situation where he is being brought to justice, or a black man as being the victim of crimes. And what many in the black community would say, myself included, that there has been a lack or a falling of justice as it relates to the fulfillment of which the system should be doing. And so I want to start with the most recent case. This is what I think the world is kind of looking at. And what's been interesting about the coverage of this situation with Nolan Xavier Wells, the young 18-year-old kid down in Mississippi that went with some friends who happened to be all white to Horn Island. Phone returns. He doesn't. The friends return. The boat returns. The only thing that does not return is Nolan. And there has been, great speculation. And I will side with folks in saying that there was a quick judgment of these conversations that the white folks did it with no real issue. And I think that it speaks to a greater sense of fear that many black parents have when their children enter into white spaces. Are we good with how I framed that so far? Is there anything that, because I really haven't.
I want to hear you talk more.
Okay. Jonathan, you never want to hear me talk more, but I appreciate it. I'll ingratiate you. So I think that the conversation here, so we've heard many people in the black community say, you know what, we've seen it on the TikTok reels. Hey, you know what? This, black folks should never, don't let your kids go out with all white folks. Don't let your kids, oh, this is what happens when your kids go out with all white people. And someone said, Cheryl Walker, she said, we have to be careful with that framing, because what we do is we actually bring pain to the parents who are probably already telling themselves that they should not have let their son go for a number of reasons. And we're blaming the parents for this happening because we're saying you should have known better. So I don't want to be a person who says that, but I do get the sentiment in black spaces that many black people feel like this is not a one-off. This is not something that's rare, but something to be concerned about.
There's a lot of conclusions that have been jumped to at that
Absolutely.
point.
Absolutely.
Like this happened Saturday.
Yeah.
Last Saturday, as people are hearing this on the radio.
Yep.
As of the time of recording, there hasn't been a positive ID made on the body quite yet. I would be shocked if it wasn't.
Well, I think the mother or a family member said that it was him.
Okay.
Yeah. So up to now, and that was just something that just recently happened, but you're right.
So this is so very early in any kind of investigation. But it is suspicious. It's very suspicious, and I'll agree that the people that were on that island need to be looked at very closely. Why'd they come back without him?
Yeah, like that's Mark. Does that lend to weird behavior to you as well?
Well, of course. I mean, I this is the first time I'm hearing about this story. I haven't heard this story at all. So they went on the island and they came back without him and didn't say anything. If that's what happened.
Phone, yeah, pretty much. His phone was in the boat. They found his phone in the boat, but he never came back.
And yeah, I mean, and they didn't call the police. They didn't. I mean, it's obviously very, very suspicious.
Well, and for the point of bringing some clarity, some of the reports, I guess, as the judge or whomever is talking, were saying that he told his friends that he was going to stay on the island. So that is the reason why they were not like, oh my gosh, Nolan isn't here. And so if that being the case, you go ahead and say, I'm still like, bro, you came with us, you're leaving with us. I don't let people do that when we go places. But I'm going to say this, and for all my folks, go ahead.
Can I?
Absolutely.
It's also, from my experience anyway, and from what I've seen, a stretch to say, well, of course, that's what happens when black people go out with white people. Like, that's a big stretch to extrapolate that to some big trend.
Well, if you put things in alignment, there's another story, and I say this as to why I think the sentiment is growing in that way. There's another story, and I don't know if you guys have paid attention, and I don't know the young lady's name at the moment, where this black woman was dating a white guy who's her fiance. They were in Africa somewhere on a trip, and he came home, and he told his family that she died, and there was no other response. He came home, she didn't come home, and he was like, I don't know what happened. And then they find videos of them having this major altercation from the cameras inside the place. And now there's a revelation that he pretty much is the most logical suspect.
I guess I don't look at that story as a black-white story. I look at that as spouses disappear.
And I get that. But when I saw that story, my sentiments were very similar. And I say this because growing up, and this is how I think why there is a really big difference when I talk about how the lessons that black parents have to teach their kids in America that white families never have conversations about. One of those stories, because I grew up in a situation where there was other folks, and my mother would be like, any other black kids going? Because I went to a school at one stage that was all black. Then at one stage it was all white. And my parents like, who are the other black kids? Is Choya going down the road? Is Brian going down? And is your cousin Reggie going? Because if somebody else wasn't going, you weren't going. And it was the conversation of, hey, you got to be careful. And I think that they were speaking, epigenetics says that we deal with trauma. And as we deal with trauma, that trauma is passed in through the DNA, and we pass it from generation. It becomes generational trauma, right? And so I think because of the situations, and we can go all the way back to Emmett Till that talk about these stories of how black men don't return home after showing up in all white spaces. It's a conversation that white America never has to deal with. But it is one that as a young black man, my family, And I say my family because of my grandmother, my aunts and uncles, my mom. These were conversations. You got to be careful. Don't be going out there, especially when it was going boat. Don't be getting on the boats with the white people. And I'll say this: my cousin Marlo Prescott. You can Google this. We got a call that he was in a boating accident. And this is like 1987 or something like that. 1983. I don't know. And we got a call that he was in a boating accident initially, and he drowned. And the only thing that we knew is that he had a white girlfriend. He went with his white friends to go swimming, and he ended up dead. Our first conversation, like, oh my God, what did they do to him? Because there is a fear that exists, very real, that when Black kids go into predominantly white spaces, sometimes they don't return home safely. So that being said, putting that in that context of the things that have been taught, putting that into the context of the things that have been seen and experienced, things that have recently been in the news, I think that is where the jump to a conclusion comes from. Do I think that is legitimate? Absolutely not, because we got to figure out the details, right? But does that concept or that idea for both of you, is that something that is very foreign? Is that something that's striking to the two of you all, hearing that these are conversations that parents are having with young Black boys and girls? What are your thoughts about that?
No, not really. I mean, you've talked about this before. It's probably no different than, white parent telling their kid, like, hey, if you're going to walk into Harlem, you'll be very careful walking into Harlem alone, kind of a thing. So.
No, that's racist, Mark. You can't say that.
No, actually, it's unfactual. Is what I would say, because it's unfactual. The statistics will tell you that white folks are safer in Black spaces than Black people are in some
situations. That doesn't dissuade. That doesn't.
No, I get it. I get
change
it.
The conversation.
I get your point.
Yeah.
No, I get your point. What about you, Jonathan?
That's kind of where I was at.
Okay.
It's similar to that, and I think both of them have equally shaky grounding. You know what I mean? I think both of them are as illegitimate as each other in terms of the worries.
So you think
don't drive through that part of town. Don't,
I think that that's a fear that statistics don't support. Black men showing up unalived after being in spaces that are all white it has some support in terms of historical premise and factors.
White people getting robbed in Black neighborhoods has support.
But you know what has greater support? White people being robbed by white people and Black people being robbed by Black people. I think
for sure.
What's that?
Okay.
Well, yeah, for sure. In Black people being killed by Black people and white people being killed by white people.
Yeah, no. What I'm saying is, I think that when you look at the stats, that's what happens now. What I am saying is to think, and for you all, it's kind of saying like things are even now. And I'm not even trying to point fingers at people, but what I'm saying is
that's not what Jonathan's saying. That's not what I'm saying. So
let me clarify what I'm saying. Okay. Yeah. What I am saying is there is a history that is supported by factual data that we cannot erase from this nation.
Oh, that's for sure.
Black people have disappeared, not only from public spaces, but folks have come into their homes, taken them out, and they've never been seen again. And that's what I'm saying is entrenched in the understanding as to why people say what they've said.
And here's where I agree with your analysis, is where you say that trauma gets passed down.
Absolutely.
That isn't the world we live in anymore necessarily. That's an imprint left over in many ways. That is, you need to be careful because of this history.
Jonathan, are you oblivious to the fact that
you think that's happening?
I think it happens today. And if you read, you're a news person, right?
Okay.
Are you aware of the fact that there have been, like, especially since 2020, there have been Black people showing up lynched, hanging in public spaces? One of the last individuals, and I do not remember his name at the time, was lynched with his hand, was hung. I have to use the word. He was hung with his hands behind his back. So, and it wasn't just one. There was a series. These things have been happening. So what I'm saying is that, yes, it is a fear that passes down through generations. And we do pass down things and cause our children to have fears in situations that we shouldn't be. I'll say that because my grandmother passed down her fear of snakes to every person in the family, right? So it does happen. But what I am saying is that there are continual reports of instances that arise where black people show up missing or black people have been hanging in trees, especially now. This is what I'm going to say, and this is where the story gets really, especially in states like Mississippi, especially in states like Missouri and Arkansas, those places where, as we looked at freedoms that were being passed forward, they still have sundown towns in those states. You guys understand what I mean by sundown towns, right?
I would assume it means you better be inside by sundown.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These are cities
I was
where
just Googling it because I was just curious as you were talking. The last lynching in the U.S. was 1981.
The last lynching that was classified as a lynching.
Right. And then black people. There is some debate that there was another one in 1998.
Yeah. Yeah. So these are things that are classified. These are things that are classified as lynching. And that's why I made the distinction before when I said lynching. I corrected myself and I said I need to use the word hanging because he was hung in a space after having an altercation with someone, a white gentleman with his arms behind his back. So that was not classified as a lynching.
Got it.
So I guess if we were to look at the world through rosy lens, which I am not afforded that opportunity all of the time, or others individuals who look like myself, then we might say that it was not a lynching. And so this is a part of what I think is important. But I want to get back to this particular situation. And the Nolan case is just interesting. I think that we all find that there are details and situations here that are very interesting. And I think that until details come out, we can't make a definitive decision. Am I ready to say that it's racist? No, I'm not. Are my spidey senses going up saying, this is a black man on a boat, which is where they always told us, don't be getting in no boats with the white folks. This is a black man on a boat with a group of white friends who has shown up unalived. There's suspicion. Can I say that it's racist? I don't know what's happened. So I think a jump, as you were saying, Jonathan, to say that this is a racist situation is a jump.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to be careful that anytime a black person gets killed by a person of another race, that it's racially motivated versus something else.
And I don't think that that's the case. I agree with you, John, Mark. I think that we have to be aware of that. But I think that there are some things white people struggle to understand what racism is through the lens of Black America. And I think that it's important for us to take a look at and a step back to say, if it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, then chances are it's a duck. But I will agree with you. We have to be very careful. I don't like to say that things are racist. I really don't. I don't even like to talk about racism. But unfortunately, it is a piece of how we live today. I want to move to this next story because I know that this is another situation which is very controversial. And it was the Carmelo Anthony. And Mark, you probably have no idea. Not Carmelo Anthony, the basketball player.
When I first saw the headline, I was like, what did Carmelo Anthony do again? He's in trouble again? I thought he turned his life around. So
yeah, so no. Carmelo's out there doing Carmelo, and I think his son is playing ball as well. But this is a younger man, another teen that was at a Texas track meet. He goes in, the rain starts coming down. He goes into the opponent's track meets tent, sitting in the tent. Don't know if he knew somebody, can't remember what those details were. But there's an altercation that takes place. They told him, you need to get out of here. And they tell him to leave. So I guess they try to forcibly remove him or whatever. The guy, the black kid, stabs the other kid with a knife that he had in his backpack. You see him running from a video from the tent. He falls down. He then is sentenced to 35 years in prison. Now, so have you heard anything about that, Mark?
Very, very little other than that. That's about the extent of it. Yeah.
What about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Okay, so the thing that was interesting about this, and this is where we talk about the justice in the justice system. At first glance, I'll be like, okay, first of all, people might ask, why do you have a knife? Those might be questions that would come up. The other question is, why were you in the opposing team's tent? That would be another question that I think people would want to know as to why that happened. Somebody said that he knew someone under the tent. They invited him to come. The next thing becomes where the altercation takes place, and neither of us were there. There are people that were there, and the people outside the tent say, "Hey, this is what took place. We didn't really see anything." People inside the tent said that he was very aggressive, a term which is often used to define black men when we are upset or we feel a particular way about something. But anyways, so this white kid ends up dead, and the black kid is the person who stabbed him. I don't think anyone had any issue with that. I think the issue becomes, where do we enter into this place, and when does stand your ground or protect yourself? Is there a difference in where that shows up for black men versus is there a difference when that shows up for white men? In addition to this, I think that the family's relationship to the judge, who has now stepped down from practicing, them being shown out with drinks with the judge, different
You're
things
talking
that
about the victim's family. You're talking about the victim's
yes.
family.
And so those types of things.
Well, that's a problem. He probably should have recused himself from the trial. So
that would be a part of what people would say. So some might say, hey, this was really about bad judgment and bad morality, and the judge should have recused himself, as you said, Mark. Others would say there was a desire to frame this and to get a conviction, and because of that, it turned out the way that it did. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I don't have any, because all I know about this case is what you've said. I mean, if nothing else, the judge, I mean, it's a big issue. He should have recused himself. So that in and of itself probably warrants a new trial. So
that's going to be grounds for an appeal.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. But I still see him getting convicted and sentenced.
Okay.
Maybe not to 35 years.
Yeah, and I think that was I'm glad you mentioned that, because the sentencing, the length of sentencing has been another issue that we have seen show up over and over again for black men in the legal system. I'm hesitant, but I do. We can always pick this up later. But there was a case of, what was the Asian man? There was an Asian man. Put it in the notes, Jonathan.
Rick Chow.
Yeah, Mr. Chow.
Oh, the guy that shot the kid with the water bottle. Yeah.
So I was looking at the video of the kid picking up stuff, walking through the store, putting things down, walking out the store. To me, that was the end of the situation. They proceeded to chase after this kid. He was shot in the back and found to not have stolen anything, but yet he was found innocent. Do you all see how this is problematic in places where black people, this particular situation?
Here's some details.
Go ahead.
A weapon was found next to him, and the defense argued that the young man had pulled the weapon out, turned, and pointed it at Chow's son,
who chased him out of the store. Okay.
Yeah, I don't do that. That's dumb.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
And that's where reasonable doubt comes into play, because a lot of our justice system is based on reasonable doubt.
Even if there's a situation, because when you watch the camera, the kid, he didn't steal, run. He didn't run out the store. He walked out the store. But they followed him out of the store. Because,
if a clerk thinks somebody's stolen something, are they going to follow him out of the store?
And they chased him out of the store. But he purportedly, from what the record shows, that he hadn't stolen anything.
Okay, so they were mistaken. They thought that he had stolen something, and they followed him.
Yeah, so it's okay to kill someone in that particular situation.
Well, that's not what Jonathan said.
Then he pulls a gun and points it at the man's son.
Okay, I'm going to do some more, because I did not get that particular detail. But the fact of the matter is, does this occur if he does not chase a man who has not committed a crime? Because to me, it feels as though it's okay if I feel that you've done something wrong, but can't commit to the fact that you did. Unfortunately, this is the end of it. We're going to pick it up next week. God bless you all. Grace and peace.